So this is going to be a video about extracting honey using a Maxant Extractor. It's a 20 frame extractor. I've had it for 12 plus years. I'll show you the whole process of extracting and cleaning. You don't need to remove the motor. You don't need to remove any of this stuff. You don't need to remove this thing. You basically need to wash it out with cold water. If you use hot water, it'll melt the wax, which you don't want. It'll just adhere it to the extractor. Fill it up with cold water, add some bleach, turn it on, let it spin, drain it out, rinse it out, and that's cleaning it. I'll show you that. To start with, I'm going to load this thing with frames of honey. It's basically a matter initially of balancing this thing out. This is going to spin, and you need to balance this thing out in such a way that it spins smoothly. So the first thing to consider when you're going to use this processor is the weight of each of the frames. My bees don't draw them out equally. I mean, here's a pretty full one, but then, you know, right here it's half drawn out, or it's all drawn out, but it's got honey only in one half of it, so this is going to be lighter. So when you put these in the processor, you have to think about equalizing the weight. You basically want to balance the load out to be equally distributed. And sometimes it wobbles too much, which it might during this video, and then all you do is you turn it off and readjust the frame so you equalize the weight. So the first thing I do, I start scraping the top off the honey, and I used to do it in a separate container. Now I just scrape it off right into this thing, and it all comes out and is filtered out when I'm done extracting. The other thing I did was I bought a very fine mesh, and I put this in the bucket and put this under as I pull the honey out. It pulls all the particles out and allows you to just bottle it right after you extract it, which is really pretty cool. So the first thing I'm going to do is start scraping the frames. Everybody has a different way of doing this. I personally like this little tool that just scrapes the top off. It creates very little honeycomb or beeswax, and it leaves most of the comb intact. The other thing is this, which heats up, and then you slice the tops off. And this is good if you want to make your frames even. Like sometimes frames of honey will have bulging pieces. I mean, that's very minor and not even worth seeing, but that little bit of bulge, sometimes they just build out the comb very thick on one side, and this is nice for cutting that off. Alrighty, so just scrape the tops off. Make sure you get each little honeycomb cell. And place it in. I kind of think of in terms of how much this one weighs. And this one weighs about the same. It's a little heavier, so I'm going to place this directly across from that one and just keep doing that until this whole thing is full. So I'll place this one on this side. It's about the same weight. This is a bigger frame, but it's lighter than the other two. And the size doesn't matter, it's just the weight of it. In fact, this one doesn't have honey on the other side, so this is fairly light. I'm just going to put it next to this one. It's totally by feel. So I had to come indoors because the yellow jackets were just going crazy out there, so I just wanted to give you a close-up of how it looks when you've scraped the top off the honeycomb. So it is full. I've got all 20 slots fit. I didn't really show you this, but each one of these things fits in a slot, both on the top and on the bottom. So the bar fits right in there. And so at this point we just need to turn it on slowly. Make sure the spigot down here is closed. So, before I turn this on, you want to make sure this is loosened up all the way, because this applies pressure to this pulley, which then turns the extractor. So, come over here, and then slowly, you can see, slowly turn it, and it'll slowly put pressure on this belt here. And you want to start off just slow like this, because you're going to see this thing shake if it's uneven, which it's pretty much always uneven because I don't weigh these frames out. I sort of just do it by hand. But even now it's extracting honey. So I just spin it like this, sort of shake off anything that wants to come off at this point that may make it uneven. You can see a little bit of shake happening. Would have been nice to be outside, but the yellow jackets were too thick. So this is looking pretty even, I have to say. It's obviously not super unweighted or unbalanced. Oh, there's a yellow jacket right there. So I have to say I got kind of lucky. This is hardly even wobbling. I usually have to adjust the frames quite a bit more than this, but so right now it's spinning out the honey. But I will eventually crank this little notch at a time like that. Each turn of the crank there, or each turn of the handle, each turn of this handle makes it go faster. So you can start to see it spinning out on the sides. I took this guard off because it's just easier to clean this way. You don't have to disassemble any of this stuff to clean it. You leave everything intact. You get all the honey out, and I'll show you this. You get all the honey out, and then you fill it up with cold water. Add some bleach. That will dissolve the honey in there. You don't want to use hot water, as it'll melt the beeswax onto the extractor. And the propolis just is super hard to get off. I just leave it on there. It doesn't really matter. It doesn't affect the honey. They're just little pieces of propolis here and there. But I'll show you all that. Anyway, this spins. I usually spin it for 15 minutes. It doesn't, you know. What I'll do is I'll spin it for about 15 minutes and then stop it, pull out a frame, see if all the honey's off of it. And if it's not, spin it for, you know, another 15 minutes. As the speed increases, any imbalance will become more apparent. But as you can see, this is pretty darn balanced. And like I said, if you load yours up and it's wobbling and shaking, that is normal until you balance it out. I just got lucky. Of course, I've been doing this for 12 years or so, but you can see it's starting to shake a tad more. There are locks on 2 of the wheels, which look like this. You just can press this down, press the on side, and it'll lock that tire, or that wheel. That said, if you use this enough and it stays in place enough, that little wobbling is going to create a flat spot. So my tires all have a flat spot. There's probably a better way to do it, even maybe mounting this to a board or something, but then it just makes it harder to move. All of that honey will drip down into the bottom. So this has been going about 20 minutes, so I'm going to turn it off. We will start pulling these things out. Just check out one of them here. And you can see it's pretty much most of the honey's out. There are places like this that I missed. I'm not going to worry about that too much because I'm going to put these back in the hive. They can feed on them for when there's still some pollen bread in there. So the bees will clean these things up nicely. So I'm going to pull these out, put them back in the supers, and then we'll see how much honey we got. So this is what it looks like after I pull out the 20 frames. It's hard to see how much honey that is, but you'll see when I start draining it out of here. It's quite a bit. So as this fills up, I lift the bag up a little bit and let it drain, and then continue to extract it. All of those particles will be taken out and more than likely fed back to the bees. Sometimes I make beeswax out of it, but the past few years I've just been giving it back to the bees to clean up and do what they want with it. I'll often have to tip this like that. Of course, I'm not at that point now, but I just wanted to show you. So toward the end I'll tip it, prop it up, use a spatula, get all the honey out of there. So at this point I'm going to let this drain through the filter and start extracting the next batch. So if you don't have enough frames to fill the extractor, what I do is just balance it out. So here's 2 slots open, put in a few frames, 2 slots open, a few frames, 2 slots open. And you just try and balance it out. And when you turn this thing on, as I've said a bazillion times before, you will see if it's balanced or not, and then you can adjust it. So again, I started off on a slow speed. And slowly increase the speed, maybe over 5 minutes or so. So here is an example of it being a little out of balance. You can hear it. This is not that bad, and you can just continue to extract even with it bouncing around like this. When it's really bad, you'll know it'll be just hopping and skipping all over the place. It's been about 20 minutes, and this continues to just work its way through the sieve. Probably end up with about 5 gallons of honey. So a 5-gallon bucket actually works great. It's a good height for tipping the extractor and getting all of the rest of the honey out of there. I have a 7-gallon bucket and it's too tall. So at this point I just take a spatula, scoop it toward the spout here. So I'm gonna let this drain some more and then we will clean it out. It's super easy. Like I said, there's a video out there showing you how to clean this exact extractor, and it is just a little it's a little more than you have to do. You can speed this up by just pushing it toward the thing and pressing it through. So after the honey's done draining, what I do is just take a hose and initially just hose it all down. I'll do this initially and I'll keep the drain open and just let it drain out. The propolis is not going to come off, don't worry about it. Once you've rinsed it out, then I just fill it with water, add a couple of cups of bleach, spin it, drain that out, and then rinse the whole thing out, and it's done. Super easy. Not taking anything apart or not doing anything extensive. So even though I rinsed it out, and it looked like I got all the particles out, when you fill it up like this, you see that there are lots of particles that didn't come out. So that's why I like to do this. Fill it up. It's got bleach in it now, a couple cups of bleach, and once it gets to the rim there, very top, I'll turn it on slowly and let it spin. After 5 minutes, I will drain it and then rinse it out, dry it. It's good to go. Let it spin for about 5 minutes. After it's spun for 5 minutes, undo the tension so that it disengages the wheel, and turn it off. And open it up. So if it drained of the bleach water, you come back through here, just rinse it down again, and you are done. Once you've rinsed it out, you're done cleaning it. Let it dry, or dry it. No disassembly, no nothing like that. Super easy. So I want to start by saying I'm not the type of person that would spend a ton of money to buy an extractor. And a ton of money to me, when I'm not making my living by raising bees or selling honey, would be anything over 500 bucks. So when I first started looking at extractors, I saw hand wound extractors, you know, turn it by hand, and they were about $300-400 bucks. You could do 4 frames at a time. And with my mind, I was like, well, I could pretend I'm in the 1800s and I'm extracting honey the old way, and I could appreciate that, and it'll take a long time, but maybe I'll have some family members help me, and you know, it could be a time to hang out with people and extract honey. So I went down to Oregon to rural bee supply, and I'll add that link in the text below this video. And we're looking at extractors, and I saw the hand cranked extractors, the 2-frame and the 4-frame, for a couple $100 bucks, or a few $100, maybe $400. And I was like, well, I could do that. And my wife was with me, and she said, if this resembles work, you're going to be doing it alone. So I started looking at the electric extractors, and ultimately looked at this Maxant 1400 PL, 20 frames, electric, 1,300 bucks, and I bought it, and I've never looked back, and it's been the best thing regarding honey extracting I've done. I can extract 15 gallons of honey in an hour with this thing, and that's pretty good. So if you're going to be raising bees for a while, you might consider getting something like this. You know, it's so easy to extract tons of honey in a very short period of time. And it takes up, what, you know, 4 feet by 4 feet of space. I mean, somewhere you've got 4 feet by 4 feet space. So anyway, if it resembles work, you're going to be doing it alone. That's what resounded in my head. And I haven't